Kasprzak's family moved to Plattsburgh from New York City when he was 2 years old. He graduated high school from St. John's Academy in 1974, started college, took a break to work on an oil rig, then went back to earn his bachelor's in business administration in 1981. His resume includes several years overseeing parks and recs for the state. Kasprzak sat on Plattsburgh City Council for 2 terms and has been elected Plattsburgh mayor 3 times, finishing his last term in 2014. He and his wife of 43 years, Suzanne, have 2 grown children and 1 grandchild. I asked Kasprzak why he wants to be mayor.
Why do I want it again? Again. When I go door to door, I bet you 40% of the people ask me that question. Donnie, you've already been there. You've got a grandson, all those nice things. It took me a few months after being approached by many people, good people, business people, different parties, political parties, and they started looking at the city with a mayor that wasn't going to run again and the experience that maybe needed to take over the position. Obviously, I have that with almost 3 full terms as mayor and 2 on the council. And it took them a while to convince me, a couple months actually, but they finally decided, or for me, that I was probably the right person at this time, and that's why I made the decision.
Job interview questions. What is your greatest strength?
I have an open door policy, number 1. Other than having an appointment, people feel very comfortable in coming in to see me anytime, anywhere. I think a strength of mine is I always listen. And when I get the facts of an issue and I talk to the appropriate people, then one of my strengths is I'm very comfortable in making a decision. I don't need 14 committees to do something for me. I have confidence in my abilities to make the right decision. So I am not afraid to do that. And I think that's very important for strong leadership.
And your biggest weakness?
The perceived biggest weakness is that I like to fight and argue all the time. And I find that quite humorous because usually it's the people who have that issue or the ones that have started fighting and arguing. And of course, then everybody in Plattsburgh knows that I actually enjoy those types of things if I know I'm right and somebody's wrong. So I will not say I don't do that, but I think the unfair perception is that I'm going to do that all the time. That's ridiculous. I will argue when somebody, for example, on a common council, isn't working in the best interest of the city as a whole. I will be aggressive in pursuing that. I do not seek that, and I hope the people on any council, because I dealt with a lot of councils, people basically were working for what's best for the community. There are people that have agendas. I'm very good at figuring those out because of experience, and I do take exception if they're not doing it for the right reasons, and I will not be shy about it, so that's probably true, that part. But the perception of, he's just going to get elected and fight with everybody because he enjoys it is not fair. That's not fair.
One issue plaguing the city right now, the relationship between the mayor and the common council.
Well, I made a comment, I think on a podcast, that I don't care if the council hates me or not. We're going to try to do the best we can for the city of Plattsburgh. There have been letters and comments saying, he's just like Chris Rosenquist. He's going to fight with people, and that is not fair. The intent was, all 6 of the councilors endorsed Wendell Hughes. So if you were me, how would you feel about that? But it doesn't matter to me because I always look for the endorsement of the people of Plattsburgh, and I've always been successful because that's who I want to help the most. If a council doesn't want to do what is in the best interest of the majority of residents, taxpayers, and business owners, they're going to have a problem with me. I don't care if they like me or not, and I don't mean it in that sense. But we have to do what's right for the city. And I'm hopeful that if I'm successful in running, that they will look at that and say, well, we got a different type of person. What they won't be able to say is, and they blame the present mayor for this, and even the one prior, they didn't receive information, okay? There's no transparency. People were trying to push last-minute resolutions through. That will never happen because I've never done that as long as I was mayor. Everybody received the same information in a timely fashion. I'm always transparent with an open office and an open door, and I've never tried to push anything through at the last minute. So if they don't accept that as something positive, then I think they have the problem because I won't. That's what I will do.
The city is currently exploring the possibility of adding a city manager position. Your take on that?
My personal take is I don't need a city manager when I have a very solid city chamberlain who I hired and who I know well and who always tells me the truth about the figures. If you have a city manager in the city of Plattsburgh, it's going to be another probably total of $200,000, between the salary and the benefits. I don't need anybody like that because I've been here, done that. If somebody that lacks the experience may need someone like that, I certainly feel very confident in my abilities as a former mayor here for quite a while, that I know what the problems are, what the areas of interest are, and what the community wants. So I wouldn't have to hire anybody to do that. Now, the real question you want to ask is, if somehow a committee comes up and puts it on the referendum for a city manager, which is not passed twice, it's failed twice, but if the public wants that eventually, and I'm mayor, I will absolutely work my best for the transition for the right person. But I would hope that people think twice about it, but that's fine. I'm not going to say I wouldn't work to take care of the folks' decision, but personally, I don't need one.
And the city police department can't seem to find or keep a chief.
Okay, the first one is, you're absolutely right. This community has been dealing with a revolving chief door. There are reasons for that, which I'll probably touch on in the second answer to your question. It's unfortunate. It hurts not only the folks that work down there, the good, solid police officers, it also hurts the community, because there are things that are going on in this community that need addressing, serious, opiate issues. We had a murder on Cornelia Street recently, which is, doesn't happen in Plattsburgh like that often. There's all sorts of other things that I don't want to get into right now, but I'm aware of. The second part of your question and an answer is something that my opponent's not going to admit to. There is, without a doubt, and I'm sure people are going to chuckle or not chuckle about my response to that, there is an underlying factor why we have had a revolving chief situation. The council had a name that they've wanted for 2 years. This person did not get the job. They have then made it impossible for the mayor to bring up anybody that's qualified, because this is what they have chosen to do. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's like a taboo thing. But the fact is that you have a former chief that is working on my opponent's campaign. He's denied it. It's everybody in the world knows it, okay? He's working with some council members. He's been doing that for 2 years. And it's hurt our community, it's hurt our department. Now, what are the answers to that? If I'm reelected, I'm a strong leader. I'm going to fix that problem. I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to fix it, but I'm going to fix that problem, and we're going to get a strong, qualified chief in the future, male or female, will be the right person to do it. And I don't care what obstructions I have. As a leader and someone with experience, I'm going to do that.
Taxes in Plattsburgh, astronomically high. What's your take?
Part of the problem is New York State's the #1 tax state in the country. And you have unfunded mandates that come to the communities in the county. So I don't have that answer. All I've tried to do is stabilize tax and utility rates when I get there by watching money responsibly. And I think that's one of the things I didn't answer earlier, that people look at me and say, that is not only experience, but this guy has got a record on watching our money. He's a financially responsible mayor, and I take pride in it.
Recreation, activities, and facilities, or lack thereof, in the city.
You asked earlier about some of the priorities people discuss with me, and that is absolutely on the list. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Young families want some type of recreation facilities, not only the facilities, but the options to participate with their young children. We have not had that in a number of years. We have, a small group of people that work on rec, but mostly it has fallen back on public works, okay? That is not fair either, because we all can't do what we want to do because we really don't have a recreation department. So in my, when I had my initial press conference, I basically said we will not have the money to hire 8 or 10 new people to start a new department. If we can start off with 2 to 4 and take a little bit of pressure off maybe Public Works and add it to these folks and work it in with the 5 that we've got going on, which are very good people, by the way, that are handling some of those duties, that's the best I think we can do right now. But I worked with a lot of people in recreation. I met with the town folks. The 2 young ladies are wonderful. I met with Molly Flynn, who's a good friend of mine who used to be here doing this stuff. I meet regularly with Brian Bissonette, who was there for years, and Kevin Murphy as well. And they give me the advice that we can do it. But just remember one thing, Matt, that this mayor is inheriting a budget that he didn't create. And I hope the people have told their counselors the importance of recreation, and they should include some funding for it. Because if they don't, then they're doing a disservice to our community.
Do we have a long-term debt issue?
I've always worried when I was mayor and we inherited a difficult situation, what your fund balance is and long-term debt. Long-term debt is on the books now, okay? Let's not kid ourselves. What I will do if I'm reelected is take a look at all the capital projects we have, all the outstanding short-term debt that we have, figure out what's the priorities, and maybe we can curtail some of those things that have been adding to it, or stretch it out a little bit. I'm not going to eliminate $43 million worth of debt, but what I will do is prioritize it and maybe either shorten some of the projects or eliminate some of those projects. And therefore, that will reduce that debt. But tremendously reducing it, I don't think David Copperfield or anybody else is going to magically do that.
So why should I vote for Donald Kasprzak?
I think it's a very simple answer to that question. There's one person who has had 2 terms experience as a counselor for our city, and there's one that's been mayor for over 7 years, and I think my opponent has had 0, not 1 second of a city managing or governing experience. I find that a very simple answer to your question that who would I support. If you want to throw in party or personalities, it's up to the voters. But if you asked one simple question, who has the most experience to run a $68 million budget and who doesn't, I think the answer is clear.